Hey everyone, welcome to the next episode of Partnerships in SaaS. As always, I'm your host, Barrett King, and with me today is Katie, absolute rock star, the RVP of Agency and Channel over at ZoomInfo. We actually just got formally acquainted and already super impressed with what she has to offer. So Katie, welcome to the show.
Thanks. I'm super happy to be here.
It's my pleasure. I get to have this awesome conversation with you. So thanks for hanging out.
Yeah.
And for your awesome pooch. For those of you that are watching this on YouTube, you can see it is a real dog sitting in the chair behind her. Super, super comfortable. If you're listening, just picture the most adorable fluff ball ever. Super happy, super comfy. So let's kick off. So the first question I ask everyone is kind of my standard thing is, what does partnerships mean to you? And you said it's a true collaboration between organizations with a mutual benefit. It's a marriage, if you will, and that each organization has equal buy-in and prioritization of each other. It's a great answer. Would you keep it the same? Would you change it? What do you think?
No, I mean, I would keep it the same. I'm the type of person that is wholeheartedly a big believer in what partnerships really mean. I don't like when sales organizations, for example, call their customers partners, because at the end of the day, you're just benefiting off of them as a customer. A true partner is when each party is equally invested in the relationship and doing something together, really benefiting each other. And so I'm a huge advocate of that. Yeah.
I agree with you. There's quite literally very few things that bother me professionally. The let's partner on this deal together thing is probably under the top 3 most frustrating things. And to your point, because there's no mutual value, you're giving me money for our platform. And I appreciate, there's a transactional
absolutely
partnership or whatever, right? But just don't use the word.
Just call it's sales. Just, yeah, it's sales. It's a customer. It's not, I get it, but let's use it in the right context.
Yeah. Context is everything. I agree with that. And also, I mean, so I asked the question, obviously a lot of what's your go-to-market superpower? And you talk a bit about that, the dynamic you're describing to me right now. You said your power is obviously in seeing organizations and how they can work together in many ways, but then narrowing that down. So I imagine in your position and with your background, you get asked the question a lot of, where do I start? How do I think about partnerships? I think most importantly, what's the long-term goal? Why are we doing this? So I'm assuming that's a thing you get quite often.
Oh yeah, all the time. So I've just as, background. So I've built all different types of partnership programs, reseller programs, agency programs, and the entire gamut you could possibly imagine, even down to integrations and what that looks like for the products for today and tomorrow. So I get asked this a lot actually, because I've really had that kind of experience both in the mega corporations all the way down to the small, tiny agency guys and what that looks like for everybody in between. So partnerships, the best way to start is really, you want to make sure you genuinely understand what your ICP is. And once you do know that, and you genuinely understand that and have a strategy against that, you want to then find the partners that have the same thing. So ICP.
Just so I'm clear, the ICP strategy as a customer, right? In terms of who you're trying to, okay. Yeah.
Correct.
Keep going, please.
Right?
That's great.
So yeah. So same ICP. So for those that don't know what ICP is, that would be ideal customer profile. We want to make sure that anybody that you partner with, you're having the same strategies, you're surfacing the same benefits, you have the same goals with your customers, because that's going to genuinely create kind of a superpower between the two of you, because you're going after the same things, right? Or you're providing the same things. And so that's where I always start. And the other way and then once you kind of figure out who those partners are, then you want to do something, like an account mapping exercise. I'm going to drop Crossbeam's name here, but they were a genius and brought that in. And I use that day in and day out consistently. And that's where you really then can start right sizing what your partnerships look like. How should we focus together? Should it be more of an outbound prospecting partnership, or should it be something that we have so much crossover? How can we, co-sell together, or how can we strategize together on all of these overlaying accounts? That's usually my 1-2 always between any type of partnership or trying to figure out who they should be.
Yeah, that's a good call out in terms of the overlap. Is there something early on then? So the audience that listens to the show, right, they're all across the map. They are signed up to be the first partner person at a small SaaS company. They're leading an org of hundreds, if not thousands. So full gamut, if that helps in terms of framing this question. But when you think about those first identifiers of overlap. Is there a tactic, technique, framework that you use when you start off those initial conversations in terms of how do we identify? I know the ICP thing, that's super important.
Yep.
Mutual customer
Yep.
helps you craft your better together stories. Everyone loves that phrase right now. But
Yes.
how do you identify those partners themselves? Is there something that you're using to do so?
So there's a couple different ways that you could do that. On the smaller side, it's a lot easier, right? Because anybody that's basically bigger than you or anybody else that is more recognizable in the market, you want to work with, because you're going to, dovetail off of their success. That brings that back to you. For larger organizations, so, a couple of the more recent that I've been with, the way that I really analyze it is I look at what are they doing in their go-to-market efforts today? What are they doing in the market? How are their customers seeing them? So I use a lot of data, obviously going to the G2s and the review sites and things like that, and really seeing what are customers saying. Is it the same messaging or value that we're saying? Right?
Oh, interesting.
Is it not?
About the brand itself. Yeah.
Yes,
that's
about the brand itself, right? Do they have the same values and the same beliefs about those customers that we do? That really gives me a lot of key metrics right there. The other way that I also think about it is naturally, right? When you start to strategize about your own organization versus theirs, how would that better together story look? How do we work together? How do we fill those gaps? How do we bring the entire 360 view, right, to the customer? So if they do one half and we do the other, this is why it's a perfect marriage. Or if they, show you the problem and then we provide the answer, another way that you can think of, how to marriage those two together. And sometimes it's a threesome. So that happens as well. So sometimes you do the entire, ABC track, and then that works, even better than just a, two for partnership.
I want to hold on in something because that's really interesting. You talked about looking for mutual values, not values. Mm-hmm. And I think in all of the guests I've talked to, you're the first to talk about the ideological alignment, the concept that not only are we producing a product or overlapping service that works together, but the business fundamentals in terms of how we treat our customers,
yes,
perhaps our employees, just the general market perception of that brand matters.
Yes.
Is that something you've always done, or did that come from somewhere in experience?
It's always something that I believed in, but also has come with experience to kind of prove the point.
Sure. Yeah.
When you find that there's a lot of different ideologies or different values, it's hard to match those organizations up and actually drive towards the same goals, because now you're having different stakeholders, different cooks in the kitchen, right? Having different angles or different outcomes that they want to get to. And then the partnership kind of falls apart because you're just not on the same page, right? You're not driving towards the same thing. The values, especially for the customers, is super important, because then you know that you both are driving towards the same thing. You're both wanting to serve your customers in the same way. You both have the same values and trust, and you want to keep that trust from your customers. That's huge too.
Yeah, the call out of the trust piece. I mean, everyone obviously talks about it, but it does feel more on the forefront right now. I think
yes.
Market shift, right? If you're listening to this right now, it's February 2023. I think about the year for a second. And it's obviously the market's in kind of a unique place. The world's in a unique place.
Yes.
And there is a pretty significant shift, in particular in tech, to think about the trust component, to think about reach and about impact. So yes. I wonder if, one of the things that I get asked, I'm sure you do, is how do I set the long-term mission vision?
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting, literally yesterday, this is a true story. I just talked to a leader. They have they're based in Sweden as their HQ. They've got a Boston-based office as well. I have a friend there, and he said, "Hey, we're trying to figure out this agency go-to-market play. Obviously I have some perspective. Can you shed some light?" And I jumped on with a team, and their entire strategy was not about kind of the fundamentals of how they help the agency do more in terms of delivering value. It was about, I don't want to give away the product, but it was about their platform, their solution, helping the agency to just understand more. And I kept going back to, but you're not talking about how this then benefits their end customer. And that's what that agency really cares about. And so I think today more than ever, you see, and I'm going to generalize, but technology saying, who else is going to help our customer? Who else has trust, most importantly, in terms of the implicit understanding that our end customer needs X and we can fulfill that. Yeah. So how much of the long-term goal setting then, that I'm assuming you're being asked, I'm going to make that assumption, the long-term component of this stems from, kind of today factors versus the You see in some industries where it's, well, over the last 20 years, we've seen XYZ work really well. So I'm really curious, like how much you think is the kind of pivot now toward looking for like businesses, the fact that SaaS is a bit more complex, involves more vendors to be truly successful in the long term. Mm-hmm. So kind of a today problem versus the last, again, call it 15, 20 years or whatever of technology has more large scale perspective. Which one of those do you think matters?
So here's how I'm going to answer that question.
Sure.
I think what we're seeing today is obviously very different than what we've seen in the past. I think what you're also seeing today, because there has been more emphasis on the customer, more emphasis on trust, more emphasis on the brand, choosing your partnerships is now more about quality over quantity. So in the past, people always thought the more partners I have means the more business, and it's going to just grow and grow and grow and grow. At the end of the day, you want actually, I'd rather have my team have 5 solid, just rock star partnerships that I know are in it for the long haul. We're on the same page. We have the same values, and really cultivate and farm that, right? Than having 50 of kind of mediocre partnerships that somewhat bring us something, but not really. And we just make it work, and we just try to keep adding more because we're trying to fill our book, right? Or we're trying to get more value or trying to get more revenue. I think that's where you're seeing the biggest shift in partnerships, is where, they're now really truly focusing on those that are actually valuable versus let's just, get 1 million of them in here.